All right. So again, first thing you do when you factor, I gave you a list of steps in factoring. The first thing is always to look for a GCF, which is 5. And divide 5 into all 3 of those. What's that? 35? Is that right? So then it's a regular trinomial. So I look for factors of negative 35 that add up to positive 2, which would be a positive 7 times a negative 5. When I multiply those two, I get negative 35. When I add those two, I get the positive 2. We're done. Okay. So tomorrow, there'll probably be a GCF, and then it'll probably have a, again, it might be, remember, half of it's multiple choice, right? So it might be a multiple choice one, too. All right. Simplifying radicals. I like to try to find a perfect square when I do my factor tree. You can do 8 times 10, though. You can do 2 times 40 if you want. Right, Rosalie? Okay. Doesn't matter how you start, but I always like to look for a perfect square. What's the square root of 16? 4. So the 4 comes out. What do I do with the 4 and the 3? Multiply, yes. So I get 12 because the square root of 16 is 4 times the 3. It's also got a negative under there, so I have to pull the I out as well. Don't forget about that. And then the 5 is left under the radical sign. Okay, so you have to simplify a radical. Questions? All right. This one, when you solve a quadratic by using square roots, you got to get the squared part isolated by itself. So you got to get the 7 to the other side and the 2. All right. So I'm going to subtract 7 and get 2x squared equals 80. And then I'm going to divide by 2. And now I have the squared part isolated by itself. That's what I want. Okay. Now, to turn that x squared to an x, I have to take the square root of both sides. Don't forget the plus or minus symbol when you do that step. When you take the square root of both sides, it's plus or minus when you're solving one of these equations. This is 4 times 10. What's the square root of 4? 2. So the 2 comes out front, and the 10 will stay underneath. There's no other perfect squares than 10. You comfortable?
Yeah.
All right. Pretty easy stuff, right? Simple. All right, here we got a FOIL. All right. So first, 5 times 7. Outside, 5 times 4i. Inside, negative 2i times 7. Last, negative 2i times a positive 4i is negative 8i squared. So what does I squared equal? Preston. Thank you. So that might be something you want to put on your little card to remind you. Okay. Also, remember, which we already did today, we got that negative from that earlier one. The square root of negative 1 is I, right? That's why we pull the I out, because of the square root of negative 1. Okay. Now, since I squared equals negative 1, what did I teach you guys to do? Cross this out and do what? Change the sign, right? Because it's negative 8 times negative 1, so it turns it into a positive 8. You guys remember that? So now I can put the 35 and the 8 together. All right? 35 plus 8 is 43. And 20i minus 14i is 6i. So there's our answer simplified. Questions? Okay, moving on. Quadratic formula. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. All right, so you might want to put that on your note card, right? Most of you guys remember all that anyway. But when we solve a quadratic equation using the quadratic formula, it has to be equal to what? Before we start. 0. Okay. So move the 6 over. When I move it over, I have to subtract it. Right? So my A is 2, my B is negative 5, and my C is negative 6. Okay? Got to have it equal to 0, right, Sky? So, negative B, and B was negative 5, plus or minus square root of B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. All right, so those are the numbers I put in. So that's a positive 5. It's a 4 underneath. And I told you not to put the square root in your calculator, right? Just do the 5 squared and so on. Well, 5 squared or negative 5 squared is positive 25. Negative 4 times 2 is negative 8. Negative 8 times negative 6 is a positive 48. So what is that, 63? Is that right? Or is that 73? 73. Sorry about that. Can I simplify 73? No, there's no factors. There's no perfect square factors in there. So we're done. 5 plus or minus square root of 73 over 4. Okay? But if tomorrow you can simplify that radical, make sure you do that to get full credit. Okay? Questions? All right. Complete the square. All right. We're solving another quadratic, but we're completing the square. When you do this, you keep the A and the B on the left, plus blank, and you take the C and move it over to the right side and add a blank. Remember the blank, it's always addition, but it's the B value divided by 2 squared. That's what goes in the blank. What's 8 divided by 2? 4. What's 4 squared? 16. Okay, questions? Now, when you complete the square, you made it into one of those special trinomials that factors to look like this. 1 parenthesis and squared. Okay? You take the square root of x squared for the front of the parenthesis. You take this sign, so this is minus, and you take the square root of the blank number. What's the square root of 16? 4. So that's what it looks like when you factor that trinomial you just turned into a special trinomial by completing the square. On the right, you just do the math. That's 25. Now, what do I do to get rid of that square? Get a square root. Okay. So what's the square root of x minus 4 squared? Itself, right? The square root of something squared is itself, right? Now, you got to do plus or minus. What's the square root of 25? 5, right? So what do I do with the 4? What, man? No, you don't subtract it over. Yeah, you add it over. So you got 2 answers. Since these came out nice, you got 4 plus 5, which is 9, and you got 4 minus 5, which is -1. So this had 2 answers. So we had to do that one by completing the square. Now, if that was a multiple choice one, you can just kind of plug in the choices and figure out which one works, right? The ones that work is when it equals what? 0, right? Okay. 23, solve by substitution. All right, so that means we're taking what y equals, So we're taking what y equals and putting it in for y in the top one. Okay, so we write x squared plus x minus, instead of y, we put -x plus 4 in there. That's the substitution part. And then we solve this equation. All right, so we get x squared plus x. What's this negative do to the negative x? Makes it addition. What's this negative do to the positive 4? Makes it subtraction, right? Now, to solve a quadratic equation, we need to set it equal to 0, all right? So I got my x squared, I got x plus x, which is 2x, and I'm going to add the 1 over here. -4 plus 1 is -3. So there's my equation I have to solve now. Okay, now remember, when we're solving a system, we got to find an x value and a y value, right? Because there's a y up there. So remember, don't stop once you get your x values. I think I would just factor this. But again, if you want, you can use your calculator to figure out that. I'll just show you how to do that quick if you want. All right, x squared plus 2x minus 3, graph. And these 2 spots that it crossed the x-axis -3 and 1 are the answers, right? So if that's how you want to solve that, you can. I would factor it because it's a regular trinomial. There was no GCF. A was 1, so it's really easy. Factors of -3, +3 times -1 that add to give me +2. So then, what makes that equal to 0? -3, right? What makes that equal to 0? +1, which is what the graph just showed us, right? So, however you finish it up is fine with me. But we're not done. We got the x values. Now we got to figure out the 2 y values, right? So don't forget about that tomorrow. All right. So I'm going to put, what was it, -3? Yeah. I'm going to put -3 in here. And I'm going to put +1 in there. So -3, negative of -3 is +3. So that's 7. So one answer is -3, 7. And -1 plus 4 is a +3. So 1, 3 is the other answer. Okay. So remember, it's 2 points. two solutions. You need an X and a Y. Since there was two X's, there's two Y's. Questions? All right, 24. Graph. All right, so just put that. We'll make this one red, and we'll make this one blue. All right, but I'll just put it in my calculator. All right, I go to my Y equals and put X plus 2 in parentheses squared. All right, and then I'll put negative X squared plus 4 in. All right. The first one that shows up is the red one. And the second one that shows up will be the blue one. Some of you have red and blue when you guys do that. All right. So that's what it's going to look like. All right. If you want to do some points so it looks like it's supposed to, you can. Let's go down here a little bit from. Well, let's look at the first one, I guess. All right, so negative 5, 9. This is the red one. Oh, I'll put this over here so I can look. All right, negative 5, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 9. Negative 4, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 4. Negative 3, 1. Negative 2, 0. Negative 1, 1. 0, 4, 1, 9. So this is dashed, remember, because it doesn't have the equal to. Did you remember that? And then I plug in 0, because 0 is not on there. If 0, 0 works, I'm going to shade outside of it. If 0, 0 doesn't work, I'm going to shade inside it. Okay? So 0 less than 0 plus 2 squared. 2 squared is 4. Is that true? 0 less than 4? Yeah. So I'm going to shade outside of this parabola because 0, 0 is on the outside of it. Okay. Remember, I'm looking for where the two overlap, right? So I'm not going to do that yet. I'm going to wait till I do the blue one. Okay. The blue one, let me go to my table again. And I like to get this to look a little more symmetrical. There we go. So negative 3, negative 5. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, I need to put that over, don't I? All right. Negative 2, 0. Oh, it's there again. Huh? Negative 1, 3. 0, 4. Positive 1, 3. 2, 0. And 3, negative 5. This one's got the equal to, so it's solid. Zero, zero is inside of it. So if 0, 0 works, I do the inside of the blue. If 0, 0 doesn't work, I do the outside of the blue. Okay? So 0 greater than or equal to negative 0 squared plus 4. Well, 0 squared is 0. So it's 0 greater than or equal to 4. No. So I got to shade outside the blue. So where outside the red and outside the blue is all this stuff, right? Okay. So you have one like that as well. Okay. Again, the graphic part's easy. The calculator does it for you. You just got to put 0, 0 point. And again, depends where 0, 0 is. All right. If it doesn't work, it's out. If it, like in the blue one, it didn't work, so you go outside. And this one did work, but it was already outside, so you kept it outside. Okay, last one. This is the easy stuff. You guys just had a quiz on it, right? So do Pascal's triangle. You always start with the 3 1s. And then every row starts with a 1 and ends with a 1. And remember, you go 1 plus 1 to get the next number and end with 1. Start with 1. 1 plus 2, 2 plus 1, end with a 1. So I can stop there because this is a 3. So I need that row that has the 1, 3 in it. All right, so I go 1, 2 sets of parentheses, plus 3, plus 3, plus 1. X goes in the first parenthesis, 3 goes in the back one, and the first parenthesis starts with 3, goes down by 1s, all the way to 0. The second one starts at 0 and goes up by 1s to 3. The 0 1s, I told you can not worry about. Now you just do those 4 problems. 1 times x to the third is x to the third. 3 times 3 to the first is 9, x to the second. 3 times 3 squared, 3 times 9 is 27, x. And then 1 times 3 times 3 times 3 is also 27. So x cubed plus 9x squared plus 27x plus 27. You all got that one right, didn't you? That should be fresh in our minds. So, that's all I got. You guys got any questions? All right, so don't forget your note card to bring it tomorrow. You'll turn it in when you turn in your exam. I have a little bubble sheet. For the multiple choice part that you'll fill in